Michael, what's today's audio?
This time we are going to talk about integrated amplifiers with built-in DAC. This time we compare the Denon PMA-1700NE and the Yamaha R-N1000A.
Recently you have been comparing Yamaha and Marantz, but this time it is Denon and Yamaha.
That's right. I wanted to try the Denon amp as well, so I bought it.
The R-N1000A is a network-compatible amp, but is the PMA-1700NE also a network-compatible amp?
That's the point to note. The Denon PMA-1700NE has a built-in DAC, but it does not have network playback capability. I always use Amazon Music as my sound source, but the PMA-1700NE by itself cannot play Amazon Music, so you need a player that can build a network.
Then it is difficult to compare.
For this comparison, I decided to audition the R-N1000A via a network streamer as well.
So, this is purely a comparison of amplifiers with built-in DACs. How are they different, Denon and Yamaha? Wouldn't you like to hear them, Master?
Yes, I want to hear it.
The PMA-1700NE is priced at 218,900 yen and the R-N1000A at 198,000 yen. I would say that the two units are roughly in the same class.
What were the results?
To sum it up, it's a matter of taste. The R-N1000A has a clean, flat sound. The PMA-1700NE is impressive for its powerful mid to high frequency range.
I see.
Now, let's compare the front panels of the two units. Both have a traditional design. The PMA-1700NE is characterized by a remarkably large volume. I think the larger volume gives a more luxurious impression, but it may be too large. The difference between the two units is that the R-N1000A has loudness adjustment and speaker switching. The PMA-1700NE has two speaker jacks, but they are not switchable and cannot be output separately. If you use only one set of speakers, it doesn't matter. One thing that bothered me about the PMA-1700NE is that it does not display the volume value. There is no volume knob on the main unit, and there is no volume display on the display. This is the first time I've seen a device with a display that doesn't show the volume. Why don't you just use the volume you can hear? This may be Denon's idea, but I think it is unkind. The PMA-1700NE has a display, albeit a small one. The display on the PMA-1700NE only shows the inputs and information such as frequency. If that's all there is no need for a display.
Why does it have a display?
Probably because it is a reuse of another chassis. The texture of the knobs is better on the PMA-1700NE. The knobs on the R-N1000A are poor. The texture is similar, but the PMA-1700NE has a more luxurious feel. The thing that bothered me about the housing of the PMA-1700NE was the heat sinks. The heat sinks are not only on the top panel, but also on the sides. I was surprised that so much heat could be generated.
Now let's talk about the rear panel.
The main difference between the terminals on the rear panel is that the R-N1000A has a LAN port and HDMI ARC, while the PMA-1700NE does not. This is the difference between the R-N1000A, which is a network amplifier, and the PMA-1700NE, which is a regular amplifier with a DAC. Since there is no network function, the PMA-1700NE is pure.
But the PMA-1700NE also has a DAC, so it is not a pure integrated amp.
Yes, it is. The R-N1000A's DAC is an ESS ES9080Q, while the PMA-1700NE's is not. On the web, the name of the DAC to be advertised is usually written. However, PMA-1700NE is not mentioned, so I guess it is not a DAC that can be advertised. However, the PMA-1700NE is equipped with Denon's own technology called Advanced Alpha 32 Processing Plus. Using a proprietary algorithm, it derives the ideal interpolation point from a large amount of data that exists before and after the interpolation point, and performs ideal interpolation processing that is as close to the original sound as possible. That's a great claim to make, though I'm not sure if this technology is good for the sound. The quality of the speaker terminals is average for both. If anything, I would prefer the PMA-1700NE. The other terminals are of about the same quality. The power cable is poor, with the R-N1000A in the general audio class and the PMA-1700NE with the same cable as the Marantz Model 40N. The remote control is made of cheap plastic. Nowadays, you can't expect remote control quality from a 200,000 yen amplifier. There are many devices that can be controlled with a smartphone nowadays, but it would be nice if the remote control had a high-end feel.
The two units are in the same price range, so they're similar. What are the differences in specs?
The rated output is 100 watt plus 100 watt for the R-N1000A and 70 watt plus 70 watt for the PMA-1700NE at 8 ohms. The damping factor is 240 for the R-N1000A and not listed for the PMA-1700NE. The PMA-2500NE is listed on Denon's website as having a damping factor of over 700. But they don't seem to want to disclose the damping factor of the PMA-1700NE.
I can understand if it is a different manufacturer, but if it is the same manufacturer, why don't they reveal the DAC and the damping factor?
They want to show off the performance they want to show off, but they want to hide the inconvenient details. It could be said that they are disrespecting the users. And the audio websites, which are advertising media, only write about the manufacturer's advertisements and don't seem to be willing to do their own research. That's why I buy and test them myself. Specifications alone do not determine sound quality. However, I think specs are a major factor in deciding which equipment to purchase. At the very least, if they are from the same manufacturer, I would like them to have the same specifications.
Do you want people to buy equipment without doing too much research?
That may be so. The number of people who enjoy audio is decreasing, so I'd like to convince the audiophiles we have now.
What equipment do you use?
The sound sources are Amazon Music, LinkPlay's WeM Pro Plus network streamer. The speakers are B&W 705S2 signature speakers.
What were the results?
The R-N1000A is flat from low to high frequencies. It is very easy to listen to and well balanced. The PMA-1700NE has very strong mid to high frequencies. It has a punchy sound.
Which one did you prefer?
I think I prefer the R-N1000A. It sounds natural with any source. The PMA-1700NE, on the other hand, has too much energy for me. The old Denon copy says delicacy and power, but the PMA-1700NE doesn't convey delicacy. It would be impossible to achieve delicacy and power at a high level because they are contradictory words to begin with. However, the power of the PMA-1700NE is worth mentioning. Some people may like this power.
So, it's user preference.
The price range is the same, and in terms of functionality, the difference is whether it supports network playback or not. If you prefer a sound that plays without any problems, it's the R-N1000A. And if you prefer a sound with more oomph, it's the PMA-1700NE.
Were there any other areas of concern?
One thing that bothered me about the PMA-1700NE was the volume control on the remote control. If you control it with the main unit, you can adjust the volume in detail, but with the remote control, you can only adjust the volume roughly. When I wanted to make the sound a little louder, I pressed a button on the remote control and the volume went up a lot. It is a problem that the volume control with the remote control is so crude. Since the volume can only be adjusted roughly, I ended up having to use the volume control on the main unit.
It's a pity that there is a remote control.
The volume is not displayed on the main unit display, and the volume control on the remote control is clunky. Denon has been making amplifiers for a long time, so I wish they would be more user-oriented. However, Denon is more popular than Yamaha. I feel that Yamaha is better for me, so maybe I disagree with the public.
Maybe it's just that not many people have used Yamaha. Master, did you want Yamaha or Marantz?
Yes, Yamaha.